Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier. This is a podcast focusing on all the good, positive things going on around the Arklatex. My name is Jeff Blindfor. I'll be your host today. Co-host over here, Paul Reeser, member of the Committee of 100 and big-time businessman around town. And as always, we have a couple of special guests with us here today. And Paul, I will allow you to do the intros.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. I'll tell you what, if you live in the Shreveport-Bossier area, you've probably heard of B-52 flyover because we're close to Bossier has the largest B-52 base in the world. I'm sticking by that. And it's because, they just turned the light on because I'm looking at the right camera now. But you also have probably heard of the Defenders of Liberty Air Show. Hey, it's been around 90 years now. And we're finding out all about it today with our guest, Major Branden Yarrington, who's the air show director, and Captain Kevan Thomas, who is the air operations officer.
Correct.
Let me get that right.
Correct.
So thank you guys for coming today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's just jump in.
Sure.
The air show, I guess, coming up, so tell us all about it.
Yeah, so this will be another great rendition of the local community partnership with Barksdale and the greater Shreveport-Bossier area. We've got a ton of headliners, and it's going to be back in an in-person air show, which we haven't had since 2019. So I know the community is really excited about coming out in person and getting a chance to see everything up close and personal. So a big headliner act, as everybody wants to know, is who's coming. It's the Blue Angels, so
right.
the United States Navy. They bring their own crowd, and they're great. Their show is fantastic. We're partial to the Thunderbirds just by being Air Force members, but the Blues put on a really good show too.
I remember being a little kid. I grew up next to Scott Air Force Base in Illinois. And the Blue Angels were it. I mean, every year we would go out to see the Blue Angels.
Yeah, the running joke is that the greatest recruiting tool the Air Force has ever had has been the United States Navy's Blue Angels, right? And we kind of still stand by that, but they're great.
It's a really nice. It's an amazing show. We've been out several times. Always take the kids, but it doesn't just happen on that weekend coming up. So what are some things leading up to the show? What all can we expect besides not just the Blue Angels? It's awesome, but it's a week-long event. What all happens in association with the air show?
Sure, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces, as you can imagine. And so we'll probably maintain normal operations, normal day-to-day activities on the base probably till around Wednesday. A lot of community involvement is going to take place between all the demo teams. So the F-22 demo team's coming, the F-16 demo team's coming. A lot of the other performers are going to get out and into the community and kind of just do some of that public relations piece with it. On top of that, we'll be bringing out the Commemorative Air Force's Rise Above program, which is a heritage flavor history lesson with the kids that includes the Project Tuskegee Airmen and the WASP program from back in the day. And they're going to go out and reach out to a couple of the schools, bring the kids in during their history class.
I'm sorry, the
Absolutely.
Project
Tuskegee. Yep.
So I Googled that when you told me about it. That's an amazing story. I mean, could you tell us a little bit about why that's important?
Sure. So the Tuskegee Airmen were a unit of African Americans that were brought together in the war to contribute in the warfighting efforts. And a lot of people didn't think that they were going to be able to succeed. They were kind of given some secondhand equipment, secondhand training. But through their just drive and will to be that prestige combat unit, they succeeded in I think all of their tasks up in World War II.
Broke all the barriers that were set in front of them, some intentionally, some unintentionally, and really overcame to show that power and might of the American fighting spirit. So having them be, I guess, presented in a way at the air show, to get that diversity and inclusion of our local community is a huge deal. And as Branden said, they'll be out in the local community. We're working with Bossier Parish Schools to get some kids out there for a field trip throughout the week, as well as some of the civic leaders, just to get them out there to check out the trailer. It shows 2 videos, but they will also be at the air show for the local public to enjoy as well.
Yeah, and it's not just the Tuskegee Airmen. They run a whole program on the women's aviation service for the women pilots that were in the service during the war as well.
Do you guys have planes from the past people can look at? I had a chance to fly in the Memphis Belle. I guess it was a replica of it.
Yeah.
This was a few years back.
And I was coming to the show? Coming to the show?
Yeah, I'll be out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll bring a B-25 is one of the airplanes, and they were really instrumental in the early WASP days. That's what a lot of the women pilots trained on. P-51 Mustangs, we'll have 2 of those. One is an actual red tail, which was used in the Tuskegee Airmen units.
And then we've also got, it's a C-47, it's called That's All Brother.
Yep.
And it's actually the original and actual plane that led the D-Day invasion into Normandy. So that'll open up our show. And then it'll be a chance to view some flying history.
Yep.
So again, with that having the original D-Day invasion plane, something very cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
People get to walk through these planes. I mean, the big one. I remember. Is it a Galaxy C3? Is that
C5?
C5.
Yeah.
I remember walking through that plane.
It's so big.
And I'm like, oh my god!
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how big it was.
Yeah, we're designing the ramp now where all the static airplanes are going to be, and it takes up so much space. It's just a massive, massive airplane.
It's amazing how big some of these aircraft are when you get to go onto the base, and a lot of these planes will be out there, and you can actually walk through the plane still, right?
Yeah.
So you get to see them up close and personal and overhead.
Correct. And then additionally to that, our STEM zone, Louisiana Starbase, it's a group that is on base. It's run by the DoD, but it's for school-age kids as well. But they set up a huge STEM zone. And with that, they will have the opportunity for virtual cockpit tours as well. So you can pull up the link on your phone, and then it uses the motion on your phone, and you can look around a myriad of different aircraft that we may or may not actually have on the ramp, and you can see those as well.
So dads can bring their kids and act like it's for the kids, but really we can go in there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Kids got to geek out a little bit.
Kids of all ages.
There you go.
Yeah.
So obviously, most of the action takes place overhead. You're gonna have thousands of people on the ground watching. Getting all those thousands of people onto the premises has got to present kind of a security problem, doesn't it? I mean, or not?
Well, so part of the allure of having a military air show is that the taxpayers and the local community, everybody gets a chance to kind of see what it is we do on a day-to-day basis. And so, sure, there's security.
Well, I was just curious because during a normal course of a week, I can't just come onto the base, right?
Sure,
There's security there, so.
Yeah, so security is still going to be out in force. So we'll have all of our security forces and a couple augmentees from the local community to provide all the same security that we normally have. But we do have to plus up our numbers with the local community, PD, and sheriffs and marshals. And that's just the sheer volume of people that are going to come on base. So we do need a little extra help, and that's why we've reached out to the community to get that.
Kevan, talk a little bit about the logistics of just putting this thing together and bringing all these people and equipment together at one place. Yeah, I mean, it's got to take. Well, we got about 20 minutes.
Okay.
So Brandon and myself, including our entire team, which is base-wide, I really couldn't give you a number as to how many folks on base and off base have really been trying to make this happen. But we've got a great relationship with our Military Affairs Council. So the folks in the community that are really excited to help put the show together, and then additionally, the folks on base. I don't think there's any shop or any team on base that is not involved in this. And I guess Brandon and I have the luxury, if you will, to be kind of in charge of all that and bringing all those people together. Kind of really to live out our vision of what the air show should be. So that's our biggest goal, or has been our biggest goal, is to give the community the best product that we can. Again, with it being the first in-person air show since the COVID pandemic. We're really trying to get everybody involved. And
you guys get excited like the rest of us? Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm a pilot by nature. My whole life has been around aviation. I've wanted to be a pilot since I was 4 years old. So I can remember, growing up going to air shows. I've got a funny story about that. I actually did get lost when I was 4 years old at an air show. So we can talk about that offline. But
That's hilarious.
So I just remember.
Wasn't that hilarious when he was?
I bet your mom
wasn't for his mother either, right?
I was totally fine. I was totally fine just walking around looking at the airplanes. But I remember what it was like when I was a kid, and really that's what got me into aviation in all aspects. But I always wanted to be an Air Force pilot. So that's been kind of my driving factor as to. My side of the house, setting up the act, setting up the ramp of, what is going to get the kids the most excited. And I think that's really been our biggest goal, is community involvement for sure, but really getting the kids excited.
Yeah.
And it's been definitely a logistical challenge, but it's definitely not undoable by any means.
So you say what your vision is for the show. What is kind of the overall reasoning behind having this show? It's been going on for 90 years, and we get excited about it, but do you have kind of besides your vision, what does it mean to the community, and why do you continue to keep doing this?
So the biggest thing is going to be to get the local community involved in the military and recruiting, right? But at the end of the day, what it is a way for us to showcase our airmen and showcase what we do on base. Because as you said, on a local week, you can't you can't come on base, right? So that's part of the allure for having these military air shows is, we get to open the gates to the people to come onto the base to, get a peek behind that curtain of, here's what Barksdale looks like, here's what they do. And that's been another big driving force this year is really showcasing our airmen instead of just having them, walking around picking up trash or maintaining security, like actually showcasing them. So we've got a couple different displays of how we're going to do that, and that ties back into what goes on, like you said, during the week. It's not just over the weekend. So we've got some school age kids coming out. There's a big STEM field trip, STEM fair on Friday. That Branden can talk a little bit more about since that's kind of in his wheelhouse.
Sure.
But to answer your question, that's
STEM,
community
science,
involvement.
technology, engineering, and math.
It is, yeah.
Come on. I
But
know my
I'll say, so
acronyms.
we'll take it even a step further. We'll talk about STEAM, which includes the arts, right? So if you look at, not everybody has the brain that's the right brain, right? Some people have left brains, and I think I got that right. But a lot of people have the ability to create things, be a little bit more creative than just a structured engineering brain like myself. And what we found is that if you just do STEM, and right, science, technology, engineering, and math, you're going to lose some of your prospective young airmen for the next generation. And so what we're going to do this year is not only are we going to have a massive STEM focus zone, but we're going to turn that into a STEAM zone and have an art contest with the local Bossier and Shreveport schools. So
That's cool.
Yeah, so roughly 3 different categories, middle, or elementary, middle, and high school. And
do they have to draw airplanes or something?
it doesn't have to be airplanes, but I think one of the themes, they're a little bit different for each category, and they kind of grow in scale.
Okay.
But it's basically, what does Barksdale mean to you, or what does freedom mean to you, or what does Barksdale mean to the community? And so roughly, the schools have been pinged, and so they'll submit their top contestants, and we'll showcase those in the STEAM hangar. And that way folks can come in, they can get a lot of hands-on activity for their kids, they can get a lot of good knowledge, a lot of good resources too, for those parents to give their kids on how do we incorporate STEM in our daily lives. And then on top of that, they can do the art contest as well to kind of include that.
That's pretty cool. The kids still, when I was young, these air shows were like, whoa, I'm just like wide-eyed wonder.
Yeah.
Are the kids jaded today, or do they still have that feeling?
I don't think so.
My background of being a pilot, I hope not.
Yeah.
I don't think so by any means, though. It's still cool for any kid of any age, right? All the way up to my 94-year-old grandma, who just every single time I tell her that I went flying today, and she's just like, I don't know how you got that thing off the ground. So hopefully the excitement and the wonder is still there. Which
So
keeps
getting
kids
that thing
coming.
off the ground, you talk about the B-52s. Now that's a wonder. Every time I see it go over, which a lot, it's exciting. You're like, wow, look at that thing. So how long has the B-52 been in commission, and how long is it going to keep on flying?
Yeah, so we early design in the 50s, and
Ours are all from 60 and 61 here at Barksdale. So
so our tails are, I'm not great on math on the spot, but you're talking 50, 60 years of flying the same tails, and so there's not an end in sight currently for the B-52. We're congressionally mandated to be out until 2040 and beyond, and that number continues to kind of get pushed further and further. And so what's really, really cool, since you mentioned just the longevity, is we have people on base whose grandparents flew the same tail that these young kids are flying. Same tail, same seat, same mission
That's pretty
set.
cool.
And there's tons of people who have fathers or mothers who did it, but there's a handful on base that you're talking 3 generations of direct family lineage to an exact, not just a platform, but the exact same tail.
Well, what is it about the B-52 that's so special that has allowed it to be here for 3 generations?
Man, it's kind of a jack of all trades, but also a master of everything as well. It's, I know that's kind of cliche to say, right? Because it's normally the opposite, but our aircraft has been kind of tailor-made for multiple different mission sets. Structurally, it was designed really well from the folks at Boeing. Designed, aside from the story of it being drawn on a napkin, I think it's gone quite a long way.
Wait, tell that story. I don't know that story.
It's two of the engineers were at a conference trying to put together a plane, and they wanted early iterations of the Army Air Corps. They wanted propellers because that's what was at the time, and so they drew up something, and there was a handful of instances where the DoD came back and was like, no, we want this, we want this, we want this, and a couple of the engineers were just sitting at the hotel bar that they were staying at in Dayton, Ohio, right? And they just they got so frustrated, they just sat down and probably over a couple pints, they just drew this thing out on a napkin and were like, boom, if they don't like it, here's what it is. And they actually, after taking a look at it and taking a step back, they're like, actually, this works and this works and this works and this would be good for this. And
they
it
just
kind of
needed to relax, right?
They just needed a nice, just to take the edge off a little bit and come up with let those creative, left side of the brain juices flowing. So that's why we need those folks, right?
That's pretty cool.
For the design piece. So
on top of that, though, what makes it such a valuable asset is really time and time again, and again, testament to all of the folks on base throughout the generations, maintainers and logistical people, everybody. Time and time again, the Buff has been called on to basically pick up a mission that maybe they weren't designed for, or maybe it was never in our realm to ever actually do. And just the folks that have been involved in that have just come out on top every single time and really went above and beyond. Everything from Cold War all the way up through Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah.
Things that we were never meant to do in the B-52.
That was the B-52s that took off from the aircraft carrier in World War II, right? Jimmy Doolittle, am I right?
Those are the B-25s.
B-25, okay.
Which we'll have
the show.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty amazing story in and of itself.
It was, absolutely.
Well, I'm proud. I mean, I'm proud to live here, and I'm proud to see them flying all the time. And it's really cool that we live here where Barksdale Air Force Base is. I mean, there's a lot of neat history. I see young men like you, and I get real patriotic. Yeah, jealous.
Yeah.
Jealous. They're young and handsome, like we used to be, Joe.
Yeah, let's speak for yourself.
We have a face for radio, which is why we're doing the podcast and not the news.
No, there's a video. You people need to find this thing online because these guys are handsome. But how does the community receive you guys? I know whenever I see airmen in uniform, I'm like, oh, it's those guys. You guys are kind of like local celebrities. Do you feel a lot of appreciation from this community?
Absolutely.
Yeah, hands down.
Man, more than just about anywhere else. I haven't lived a whole lot of places in the military, but more than just about anywhere else that I've lived, being in the Air Force, I don't think there's ever a time that I'm in my flight suit and I walk out in public and someone doesn't, pull me aside and say, hey, thanks for your service. And so I think that
that's good. I'm glad they do that.
Absolutely. We're very, very well received with the community. And I know I can't speak for everybody, but I at least try to, reciprocate that.
Yeah.
And I think most everybody on Barksdale does. Because you got to think, a lot of these people are away from home. Maybe they've never been away from home. Some of them quite a bit younger than us. And just to feel like you're welcome somewhere.
Yeah, it's huge.
Barksdale or Shreveport Lozier has done an amazing job of at least making us feel welcome here.
Yeah, this is my second tour here, so I've been here roughly about 8 years in total, and I mean, nowhere's ever going to be home from where you grew up, especially if it's outside here. But man, we've really come to view Louisiana as just being warm. We're going to keep our house that we have here wherever we go next.
Nice.
And the community's been great. The involvement's been great. Just the folks. I mean, you're stopping on your way home to pick up milk and eggs and the staples, and just like Kevan said, someone's like, hey, I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for everything you do. Couldn't do it, And so it's warming and especially heartwarming to see just that involvement. And I don't think there's been any instance where it's been the opposite.
I'm glad to get that positive reinforcement. How's the new weapons generation facility? How will that help you guys accomplish your mission?
I don't know if I can speak exactly on that, but I mean, anytime you're adding assets here, it certainly helps. If not reduce the timeline of getting the supplies that you need. I know it's going to be a massive undertaking for the community. I mean, the base is going to add more, so anytime you add more, you're going to have to add all aspects. So it's a very positive thing. It will certainly help the mission set, but as far as specifics, that still kind of to be seen.
Yeah. Sure. Well, like you said, it's got to help. So back to the air show. What's the most popular? Is it the fighter jets? I mean, what's the?
Everybody wants things that go fast and are loud, right? So that's a personal kind of question. I mean, the Blues bring their own crowd. The F-22, is going to be out there in full force doing all its amazing stunts that don't even seem like they're
What's an F-22?
What's an F-22, sir? So it's a fifth generation fighter aircraft that we have in the fleet.
Isn't that what Maverick flew in the latest movie?
Well, that's Top Gun's Navy.
Okay.
He flew
Sorry, man. I thought you guys have your own proprietary planes.
However, in most recent news, it's the jet that they sent out to shoot down that weather balloon.
Yeah.
Oh, how did it fare? Did it do
well.
okay?
So far, it's got
Looked like one shot.
One shot, and I don't see the balloon anymore. So we'll see about
B-52
that.
still has more air-to-air kills than an F-22. F-22 though. So
It sure does. Sure does.
Well, when I was in high school, it was an F-14. That was
Okay,
a cool
Tomcat,
plane.
yeah.
That was a while back.
So the F-22 though, the capabilities are just unreal. If
Unreal.
you've never seen it fly, obviously a great opportunity to come to the show and see it fly Saturday and Sunday.
It will do things that you won't even. You'll have to do a double take to think you're seeing what
Always
it actually is.
impressive.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to come to the show, what do they do? When should they show up? Or what's
Sure.
it cost? Or
Yeah, so the show's free, so it's open to the public, and so the only limitations we have are just the capacity of the ramp. And so gates open at 9, show starts at 11, and it'll go roughly till 4:30, 5 o'clock, and all of the gates will be open. So I'd say check with our public affairs team, our Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media handles. They'll be putting out all the information for all the folks to go on there and get, as well as lifetime updates for traffic situations or any of that updates, added acts. I mean, we're still getting called about, hey, I'd like to bring this aircraft. Even if I can't fly in it because we don't have time, like, can I put it on the ramp to let people take a look at it? So the show's only going to grow from here until the day of. But yeah, open to the public.
It's Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday.
Is it the same show both days? So it doesn't matter which day you go?
It'll be mostly the same.
Yeah.
There's not anything on one certain day that you won't see on the other days. Just with logistics and scheduling, you'll see the same acts both days. Maybe just a little bit different flight one day or the other.
Yeah.
So,
How bad does the traffic get trying to get in there?
Well, I mean, our team does a really good job, and the community is going to bring out all the stops for extra sheriffs, extra police, and so they'll have it down to a science.
Okay.
But I would say, to the max extent possible, if you guys can carpool, please. There's only so much space on the ramp for parking.
Yeah.
And so once that kind of fills out, that is kind of what that is. And so carpool to the max extent possible, and then show early, and we'd love to have you.
How important is the weather? I mean, what if the weather's not good?
Great question.
So depending on how bad the weather is, we won't cancel the show unless it's something super serious early on. But unless you hear otherwise, the show will go. A lot of the performers can fly what we call a low show. So if there are lower clouds, lower ceilings, or a little bit lower visibility, they can do a low show. So again, unless you see anything otherwise on the websites or any of the social media, just expect that the show is still going to go. And if in the middle of the show it starts getting rained out, there are still plenty of things that people can do, like we talked about with the STEM zone, the steam zone at this point. Those virtual cockpits, we can still walk around
all
some
the
of the statics.
Yep.
And I'm guessing there's going to be food vendors and gift shops.
Oh, absolutely. Tons of merchandise, tons of food. Think of it almost like a state fair, but with an aircraft flair. Awesome. So all your normal type vendors are going to be out there. I'm sure they'll have fried Twinkies and all the rest of that.
I mean, can you look in the cockpit of an F-22? No? Is that verboten?
So certain aircraft you can.
Okay.
And it will be very obvious to which ones you can't get close to. A lot of them will be, I shouldn't say a lot of them. Some of them will be roped off.
Major Branden told me I could chum in here.
I tell you what,
Branden Yarrington said I could.
You can try and cash that check, but it might bounce. So.
I gotcha. All right, guys, I think we're about to the end of the road here. Any last things you want to add here about the show?
Just that we're super excited again to have the local community out in full force, getting back to the in-person show. And again, been plugging it a few times, but on the websites, on the social medias, so it's defendersoflibertyairshow.com. And again, all of the same for all the social media handles and feeds.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Expecting a large crowd, and I know the community is really excited about being back in person. So again, it is a little stressful on our end to be the ones who are kind of orchestrating and pulling behind the scenes. But it's going to be really well worth everybody's time to come out and take a look.
Well, as a typical member of this area, I want to again just appreciate you guys. Thank you for your service to the country. Thank you for the great work you've done, and just coming out here today. You're a excellent example for the Air Force. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having us.
That.
All right, have a good show, guys.
All right, we'll do our best. Thanks.
All right, appreciate you being here. That's going to do it for this edition of Good to Know Shreveport Bossier. Hope you enjoyed it. Go out to the air show. Have fun.